Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for making it out tonight, understanding that some of you may be joining us from your cell phones or without electricity in your home. So thank you for joining us. And if you are viewing the recording later, we are still glad to have you in that way. We are going to kick off tonight with a quick connection activity because we know that we have an hour that will fly by together. So if you would, in the chat, take a moment to let us know, are you team pineapple on your pizza or no pineapple? It's a great debate. Does pineapple belong on pizza? Right out the gate, Susan says yes. Oh, okay, this is a pineapple group.
I feel like this is good information for us to have should we need to order pizza for a meeting in the future.
Information.
File this away. Oh, broccoli, Alfonso.
Maybe we can get Domino's pizza.
Take it or leave it. Yeah, you know, as long as I'm eating pizza, I know that I'll be very picky. Sounds good. Well, thanks for entertaining that quick connection activity. You can tell a lot about a person based on their pizza preferences. So thank you for indulging in that as we near the dinner hour. We will just quickly go over the approval of our minutes from our February meeting. Karen sent that out in an earlier email. So we'll just have a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting in February.
So moved.
I believe, Penny, was that you? Penny Christian?
Thanks, Penny. Does anyone second?
This is Susan Dougal. I second that motion.
Thank you.
All right. So minutes approved from February. We'll go right into our roll call this evening. Let's see. Nisha Ayana, am I pronouncing that correctly?
No, you can come in. Come on.
Nisha, are you with us? Rachel Albright.
I'm here.
Danette Baker.
Present.
Radar Barnes. Penny Christian.
Here.
Susan Sintra.
I'm here.
Robin Cochran. Carmen Coleman.
Here, I'm driving, but I'm here.
Be safe, Carmen.
Be careful.
Alfonso de Torres Nunez.
Here.
Ann DeMott. Elizabeth Dinkins. Susan Dougal.
Present.
Ray Madette. Holly Elmore.
Here.
Travis Hamby.
Here.
Amy Harris. Mike Hesketh. Ray Eisenberg.
Here.
Sayana Meston. Julie Monarch.
Here.
Jordan Pack. Karen Scheiding. Rob Smith. Rashawn West.
Here.
And Carrie Wilkerson.
Sarah, I think we were just joined by Mike, so we want to mark him present.
Thank you. All right, I'll keep monitoring that as folks come in here.
Also, quick point of order, just to take us backward, where there was on approval of the last minutes, there was a motion by Penny, a second by Susan. Did we take a vote on that?
No, we did not. Sorry, Karen.
That's okay.
Robert's Rules of Order says no.
Okay. All right.
Sorry for the barking. That wasn't me
No.
barking.
All right. So, Penny, to be clear, were you saying Robert's Rules of Order is saying a vote's not necessary?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I heard that right. Okay,
If you don't have amendments to the minutes or anything like that or corrections, you can just vote. You can get the motion and second, and you accept them by consensus.
perfect. Thank you so much. I did not know that. I thought we had to vote on them. Okay, great. Well, save us a second or two on voting. So, Sarah, you good on roll call?
Good there, and we'll pass it over to Justin to talk about chair election.
Absolutely. Justin, you're up.
All right, let's see if I can get this to work. I think I did. Actually. All right. Am I working?
We can see it.
Perfect. So we have an upcoming United We Learn. The full committee or the full council needs a new chair and vice chair. So you'll have a 1-year term and you can run for 2 consecutive terms. And then this should be shared with everybody in the shared drive too, if you need to go back to it. But you'll provide facilitation, organization during meetings, and you'll communicate via emails, presentations, articles, and newsletters. And then you can see some of the responsibilities of the chair. They're listed. And then they decided to have a vice chair as well. And those responsibilities are also listed. They're there to support the chair and need to attend all the meetings with the chair. And the big stuff is the nominations and the election process. So nominations will be accepted for both chair and vice chair starting in March of each year, with a due date of the 2nd February in March. And then they will send out a Google form to collect the nominations. And then nominees will need to provide background knowledge and rationale with a due date of the last Friday in March. And then nominees will receive their submitted biography and headshot, and then they may update the materials if they need to. And they'll need to answer the question, why do you want to be the chair or the vice chair? And then once we gather all the nominations, it'll be shared with all council members along with the voting week, the first week of April. And then the voting will close the week before the April convening. And then those winners of the election will be announced at the April convening. So if anybody's interested, they'll be sending the nomination form soon, and you can nominate yourself or you can nominate somebody else if you're interested in being the chair or vice chair of the council as a whole. So that's all I've got.
Thanks, Justin. Does anyone have any questions or discussion for Justin on that? We are joined, I believe, by Karen Dodd, who could also answer questions if anyone has any questions on the process or the expectations.
Karen, I think Karen may have actually.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, you disappeared from my list there for a moment, Karen.
Yeah, I can answer questions if anybody has any.
Anything additional you want to add, Karen?
Nope, good job, Justin.
That's right. And what's the deadline one more time for submitting?
It looks like the deadline is going to be, it'll be the due date of the 2nd Friday in March.
Okay.
Right, so that's this week, this Friday.
Okay. All right. So you gotta move fast. All right. Okay, well, if there's no further discussion on that, I think we can commit to sending out a follow-up. Just a reminder and just to make it easy for folks and if anyone had to miss today. Okay, well, I have the next item on our agenda. I am dropping into the chat our sign-up sheet to go on some site visits. We talked last time about some requests to go see some vibrant learning in action. And so we have lined up 2 site visits for folks. Anyone who is interested. The first site visit actually is on March the 23rd. It's an opportunity to go see student learning showcase presentations. This is in Marshall County. Actually takes place after school because parents join the learning defenses. This will be students at Benton Elementary School presenting to panels about their learning. I love the fact that we get an opportunity to participate in this process. And so would encourage you to sign up if you are available to do so. You'll see on the sign up sheet, there are a couple of questions there. There's what committee are you on? Vibrant Learning, of course, and then do you need a substitute? So if you're a teacher and you need a substitute, there is some funding, and there's also some funding to compensate for overnight accommodations if that is required to you. For lots of folks, it is a drive to Western Kentucky. So if you are interested in attending and you need those considerations, there's a place on the sign up sheet to indicate that. And then the second possible site visit, if interested, is Tuesday, March 28th, and that is to Eminence Independent Schools. This is going to be a site visit to go see classroom learning in action. We'll hear from students, we'll hear from teachers, we'll hear from district leadership. I would note that neither one of these are L3 districts, but they are longstanding innovators in Kentucky. We opted not to go the L3 route for this particular learning opportunity because the L3s are already exhibited and are going to be exhibiting again in April. So just spreading out a little bit and widening our net for observations of vibrant learning. So certainly encourage you if you're at all if it is at all possible for you to clear your calendar to get to see those. Once we have maxed out our signups, I'm going to pass it along to the other committees so they have an opportunity to join if they'd like to. So I just wanted to remind us all one more time if we'd like to go. We'll send out a little bit more advanced detailed information prior to, but want to get a sense of what the sign up participation is now. So we have a sense of opening up to the other committees. So any questions on these site visits? Any discussion? I know it's hard to get away. You know, time is so precious, but love for you to join if at all possible.
Hey,
It's
Karen.
great to see it firsthand. Yeah. Hey, Susan.
Question. Hey, so the one that's out in Western Kentucky,
Mhm.
if so like if that's a 4-hour drive, could you, and it starts at 5:30 their time, so could it be like could you do like a half day sub kind of? Oh, how that, I'm just thinking about subs.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of a half day sub, but we can certainly put in the request for the sub and see what advice KDE has. Sarah, do you know anything about a half day sub?
Susan, I'm doing that right now with another project, and that shouldn't be an issue. If you want to note that on your sign up, just put half day. It may or may not make a difference on our end, but at least we'll make note of it when we put in the request.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good question. Okay, any other questions?
Hi, this is Alfonso. Yes, wanted to ask in regard to the visits that are going to happen. Could you share with us a list of things or a list of indicators that are going to be looked for or things that are, it's not like creating a checklist, but especially for those of us who are not going to be able to attend to any of the visits, right? I would like at least 4 our voices to be heard on those things. And I'm saying specifically on my soapbox for languages, thinking, for example, in Marshall County, the amount of multilingual learners that they have in Western Kentucky is quite there. So whenever we are talking about, like you said on the document, it says display showcasing student learning. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is this also going to be something in which the students whose first language is other than English, their learning is going to be showcased not just in English, but also in their native language first. And that will present a matter of equity. And second, also to showcase the linguistic diversity that we have in Western Kentucky, not just for Spanish speakers, but also for many other students who comes from different families from all around the world. That would be one thing. And in eminence, I would probably say the same. So they are my 2 cents for that. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Alfonso. I just want to clarify the request. Are you requesting for us to ask that question specifically of them when we go? Is that the request?
So my first question was if you all are going to provide some kind of list or something for things that are going to be looked for during those visits.
Mhm.
And second, if there is the possibility for those of us who are not going to be able to go to visits for whatever reasons, that we can add to that list of things that are going to be looked for in those visits, so that our voices as members of the committee can be heard as well. And also that way we can support those who are going to be in person in those visits. And that's why I was mentioning the thing about world languages, because I don't know if my other fellow members of this committee know that in Western Kentucky, the linguistic diversity and also the amount of multilingual learners that are present in our schools where they are, right? If that's also going to be showcased in those displays of learning, not just in English language, but also in their own language.
Yeah, I understand the question. Thank you. So I have final planning calls with both of those places and over the next week. And so I'll have additional details about what's going to actually be available for us to observe and see. Certainly happy to send out some advanced information, more finite, detailed information prior to the visits. And we'll definitely make a special note of anything that comes back to us that you'd like us to be on the lookout for. So I appreciate that addition to the process. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on site visit?
This is Rashawn. I think I understand what Alfonso was saying as well. I think he just wants us as a team. You know, I may not go and look for the equity in language or see if they have it. It may not be something that stands out to me. But he wants us to all kind of bring our input and the things that we want to look for, put it together and check off. That's kind of what I'm grasping. Like, let us know, hey, since I can't make it, can you look out for this?
Sure.
Type thing.
Would a shared Google Doc be a way that we could do that if we just create one that everybody can contribute to? And then that would be sort of a shared learning space for us all. Would that work for a solution?
I think that would be a great idea, because the amount of knowledge that all of us as individual members bring together to the table is so different and comes from so many different places that at least I'm thinking of the 4 people that are listed right now, 5 people are listed to go to Marshall or Eminence. I think that our own independent knowledge of those places, we can enrich and we can support their observations, so yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
Okay, great. I love this idea. I certainly can commit to creating one for us. And I will send that out prior to the visit. So happy to do that. Okay. All right. Any other discussion or consideration?
Karen, I would just add to that conversation.
Oh, I think someone started and Susan came in.
Susan, your connection is a little fuzzy right now.
Oh, looks like we lost her.
I lost her. Karen, I was just going to add that we'll also, Alfonso, touch on kind of the capturing the learning and reflection piece toward the end of today's meeting, but we could also talk about how we can kind of combine resources there as well, so that folks have some ways to capture learning. I love that, still in service of the expertise of other folks who may not be able to physically be there.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks all. Oh, Susan, you're back. Were you wanting to jump in?
I heard the tail end of Sarah's comments, probably the same. I think that shared document is great to have everyone's perspective, but also could be used in like a pre-brief before we go into the classrooms or defenses to give us a lens, and then to be able to capture the learning for post conversation and sharing with others. So great ideas by all.
Yes, I love it. All right, we're doing good work together here, y'all. Good. Okay, that's awesome.
Karen, you got a question in the chat box?
Oh, missed it. Is the committee still open to add more places for potential visits? So good question. Actually, we have been advised that each committee is allowed 2 site visits. Just we have budgeting constraints. And so these are our 2 available opportunities at the moment. There may be a possibility of asking for more, but at the moment we're trying to keep an eye on the big picture, and having 2 is what we've got for the moment.
Karen, sorry for monopolizing these questions. So my apologies to the entire committee, but follow up to what you said. I have a case of a specific school that is very much interested in showing what they are learning. I mean, showing what they are doing, but they do also understand the budget constraints. If a visit could not be arranged, is there any other way that that school could still share with all of us what they are doing in the school? Let's say, for example, like some kind of like a 3-pager or something like that, with which they could say, hey, you know, this is what we are doing. Come and see us whenever you want to.
Yeah. First of all, yeah, 2 things. I see Karen Dodd in the chat. We will likely be able to do more. Maybe if other standing committees aren't maxed out on their visits, maybe we could grab another one. So we'd love to be able to talk about that, Karen.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't know that everybody else is going to be using up their funds, so there's a strong possibility that you all will be able to do more.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we're definitely, it's important to us to go see it in person and just put our own eyes on it. It's just, you know, capturing vibrant learning is so much easier to do when you can see it in person. And so thank you for that extra negotiating space. And then Alfonso, to your point, I actually think there are lots of creative ways that we can learn from places. We could invite schools to come and give us a little quick presentation during our meeting. We could capture on video. We could, you know, maybe invite them to exhibition at the April Kentucky United We Learn meeting. You know, there are lots of possibilities. We do not want to close the door to any place that is doing amazing and awesome work that we can learn from. So I absolutely think that we should be creative about the way we are searching out and capturing and sharing. And what a good problem to have, that we have so much that it's hard to fit it all in. So that's a good thing.
A quick point from kind of, I don't know, a chair point of view. The full council as a whole also wants us to be looking at how we can implement the statewide portrait of a learner into our committee. And so I'm going to link that in the chat real quick. And that's another thing we can be looking out for on our site visits is how is the school, do they conform to the statewide portrait of a learner? What things do they do good to go along with that for the Kentucky Board of Education? And we'll be talking about that in our April convening as well as a council as a whole. as far as I understand it.
Yep, a really good point, Justin. Part of our charge here is to help figure out how to operationalize that statewide portrait of a learner. And we've got good places that have been doing portrait of a learner, local portrait of a learner work for quite some time that we can really learn from. Actually, that Marshall work is part of their portrait of a learner effort. And so I love that. I love that reminder and the fine point on the portrait of a learner conversation. That's exciting to see it come to life. Okay. All right, great. Well, next I'm going to turn it over to, thank you for that discussion. I will certainly follow up on these items. I want to turn it over now to Sarah Snipes to introduce our next presenter here. So take it away, Sarah.
Well, great segue, I think, into this conversation about how we find where this great work is happening. So in some circles that I've been engaged with, we have friends nationally with Transcend Education, and through their work, we learned about a project, the Canopy Project. And so I'm excited to introduce Sarah McCann, who's with us today from that work and project, I believe project manager over the Canopy. And it's just a really fascinating national resource that could be used to really highlight where innovative models and practices are happening across the United States. And so excited to think about the implications of that for Kentucky and just get our wheels spinning a little bit here today and thinking about what's possible as we try to spread and share vibrant learning across our state. So excited, Sarah, to have you with us this evening. Thank you so much for giving your time. We cannot wait to learn more about the Canopy from you.
Hi, thank you for that introduction, and thank you all for having me. I know your agenda says Chelsea Waite, and I'm not Chelsea Waite. I'm Sarah McCann, but I work closely with Chelsea. I represent the Center on Reinventing Public Education, and we co-steward with Transcend, a project called the Canopy. So this is going to be an introduction to our project. Just from the little bit that I got to hear from you, I do think this will be a great resource that could go in a couple of different directions. So I'll show you a few of our findings and a few ways to use it, but I really do encourage you to kind of click on that website link, and there's a lot of resources, but in particularly the data portal, which is a way to explore both by practice, by geography, and by school name, different ways of finding schools that have been nominated for doing innovative work across the country. So I'm going to take you through that, but I'm also really happy to answer any questions, maybe one or two live, and definitely afterwards if you want to follow up so I don't take up your whole agenda time. But yeah, I'm really happy to be here. So thank you for inviting us. So the Canopy Project is a collaborative effort to surface a diverse set of innovative learning environments that are advancing equity and student-centered learning, and to document the designs that they're implementing. So to us, innovation is not one single story. It's also not just technology. It's not only maker spaces. It looks and feels differently, but we have found that a lot of schools are really doing intentional work to serve marginalized students or to reimagine how school can be done. So we have this project to kind of surface not just the schools that have big marketing teams or have been kind of time and again referred to as creative examples, but we know that all around the country, all around your state, there are people who are working really hard to support students and promote more equitable and student-centered learning. So we're part of the project to surface those examples, to both draw attention there and to learn from who is doing creative work. So how does the Canopy process work? Well, we actually have a nomination process where nominators around the country will surface environments that are on their radar. We share a little bit about how we understand innovation, but we are not evaluating, and we are just taking people's suggestions of where do you see creative work? Where is something happening that is interesting, innovative, doing something you've never seen before, or doing something for students that have not received proper education before? What's working? So we want to hear from the field. And then we in turn reach out to the school leaders from those sites to ask them, what are you doing? And we ask people to share their description of what student-centered learning looks like, what student experience are they trying to create. And they also choose off of a list of practices that we call tags. We have about 80 tags that people can say like, yeah, we do project-based learning at our site on a school-wide level. Yes, we do assessments for deeper learning at a school-wide level. Yes, we do multi-language learning at a school-wide level, and people can pick off of 80 different tags, and they also nominate 5 to be their core practices. And we can create a picture from that of how the school has been on their innovation journey. We also do follow-up conversations with some of the survey respondents to learn more about their story. What barriers did they have to overcome? What policies have helped or hindered their ability to reimagine school? And different like student demographics are available. And then as the National Center, what we do is we publish that data set as public data so that anybody can come and explore it. We encourage like research partnerships because we want more people to be learning from these examples. And we also do a lot of work similar to how you were just describing of doing profiles of schools or encouraging people to go to site visits, either something they want to learn from, someone who's at a similar stage in their innovation process, someone who's working on similar endeavors. So we publish all that information to try to build connections. And I can share a couple of our kind of recent findings, but this is the link I put in the chat. But yeah, this is what the Canopy Project is, a diverse array of learning environments around the country that are reimagining school. I'll share just a couple of our findings from last year's survey. So right now the school survey is actually out in the field. Everyone who is nominated is currently filling out the survey, and we'll in about a month share the data, just like, hey, here's the data, here's a couple headline figures, and then we'll come out with some more analysis later on. So right now this analysis is from last year's survey, just so you know, and it's important to know that that data is self-reported, right? So like I said, we're not evaluating or deciding what's innovative or deciding whether someone is or isn't doing it to a proper degree. We're asking folks to share their success stories. But we're really excited to learn that actually over 80% of schools said that they designed to meet the needs of students who have been marginalized. So like we said, innovation isn't just like trying something new randomly. It's really purpose-driven, it's intentional, and it's actually to bring about a more equitable and student-centered system. And I picked this one I thought might be of interest to this group, but we did see that over 80% of schools reported that project-based learning is a component of their education model. 31% actually ranked it as in their top 5 kind of core practices, either something they've designed around from the beginning or that they've done most consistently and most successfully throughout their education journey. So yeah, they said that was essential to their school's design. And this was last finding that I'll share, but these were from the kind of open response answers where we followed up with folks to say, how are you doing your work? What challenges are you overcoming? What helps you do your work? And we asked over 100 leaders, what's like a policy that you would change if you could to help with your innovation efforts? And these are the 3 areas that rose to the top. So graduation and seat time requirements, assessment and accountability, public and philanthropic funding. And this is what our national database looks like. So our nominators represent diverse geographies, communities, and interests. And we have data from over 300 schools that is currently available. And we provide it all publicly so that you can explore it both on criteria as well as on location or individual school. So if you'll indulge me, I'd love to actually show you how to use the data portal so that you can so you can find schools either to visit, but also to look at what kinds of schools. You can do it backwards as well, right? You can look at what kinds of schools are doing certain practices, and you can even see like who is the school leader, how can I contact them, all of that. So I would love to show you that, but I also want to see if there's any questions that you have about like how to use it best. And if you prefer, if you're a hands-on learner, definitely, sorry, I'm like, can't see you guys and I would love to see your faces. But if you're a hands-on learner, I would encourage you to actually go and explore right now in the portal too.
Hi, this is Alfonso. Sarah, I was listening to you while I was exploring a little bit the website, the database, and the annual report. And thank you so much for including initiatives for world languages over there. And I'm saying this because in the report, I have seen three things that really caught my attention. One is how you mentioned in there the emergence of bilingual learners, and how there are many initiatives across the nation that are precisely geared towards serving these students, but also English language speakers, native speakers of English in here, which is the dual language immersion programs. So thank you very much for including that. I'm also very pleased to see that you have incorporated in that report as an innovative approach, American Sign Language. That is a big deal. In Kentucky, we have one of the biggest communities in the nation for people who are deaf. And third, I really like very much that you have also incorporated an example for indigenous groups. I believe it's like in South Dakota or something like that. You have put in there the example of how language immersion program has been created to immerse these kiddos into their own language and culture. And as a result of that, they are showing a great progress and great learning. So thank you so much for including this in this report. And thank you so much for including this in this database, because those are really good examples. So thank you.
Yeah, well, one of our something that's really important to us is to make sure that we have a diverse base of nominators as well, to help us surface these schools across the country. And so I want to also share that information with this group where our nomination is not currently open, but because you have knowledge and are exploring these programs across your state, that if you find a school that is not currently featured in the database, but next year when we run our nomination process, that's another way, like Alfonso, you mentioned earlier, that you have a school that is interested in sharing their story. So if you recognize a school that's not featured, then you actually could register to nominate. And that's a great way to lift up innovative programs so that they do get more attention across the state. And yeah, I don't want to take up your whole agenda, but I can share that one of our research fellows, one of our team members who is a PhD student who does a lot of our quantitative work on this project, some of her personal research interest areas are on heritage languages and heritage language use. So, we only have so many practice tags that we cover in the survey because we know school leaders' time is so valuable. We don't want the survey to take forever for people to participate. So in some ways we do prioritize, but we are also working with this data to explore a lot of different research interests and encourage others to do the same. And heritage language use and assessment and promotion in schools is actually like a kind of area of interest dear to our hearts as well. And that's just kind of one example of different ways that we engage with the data and that you can too. So I'll just really briefly demonstrate. We call this the forest. You can also, if you know a school that they're here, you can go and pick the school. But when I was looking it up for this presentation, I was like, oh, let me see who all is in Kentucky. It turns out that from last year, there's only one school that is in Kentucky, although I do know that 6 were nominated over the past year. So if they are doing the survey right now, we'll feature more soon. But I wondered if you all knew Lewisburg Elementary, if that was one that you were familiar with, but they were nominated for their innovative practices. And this is just an example of a way that you can search by location or by school type, and it will pull up the schools that fit, and you can very quickly see their core practices, or you can click on them and you can see their kind of profile. And this is what profile is available from any school that's submitted data in the last 2 years. But we see just a little bit more about their student experience design. You can see why they were nominated and just a little bit about them, how they describe themselves, as well as some demographic information. So that's one way to see, is just like a school profile. And you could see on that, it was the school leader's email address is there too, if they shared it. So if you're like, I want to go visit a school in another area, that's a way to get in contact. But you could also say like, well, actually, like, it's not so important to me if they were in Kentucky, maybe you want to know about, for example, other rural elementary schools. You could sort by rural, or you could sort by elementary school, or you could sort by public school. and then you see maybe like comparable schools, you can also then see like what are the most common practices that a school of my search type ranks for themselves. So we could see that when we looked at rural schools in our database, we could see where they appear across the country. And you could also see like, okay, competency mastery-based education, that was ranked really highly, as was project-based learning. 48, 50 out of the total say that they're doing that. You could go down and be like, oh, okay, well, what's less common? Like here we see dual language programming actually less commonly self-reported by schools with that criteria. So you can search both by location, school type, or practice area to kind of look at the different trends or to find folks to reach out to. So those are just some of the ways that we use the database. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Sarah had a question. Well, first a comment. I feel like we need to get more Kentucky schools represented. So challenge accepted. We definitely have lots of schools who are doing amazing work. We'd love to see them. We'd love to see them in the canopy. My question for you is, what's next for the Canopy project? I mean, you're going to open up nominations and add more schools to it. I heard you say you're looking for research interests. Like what's next? What's next for the project? I know Transcend is always thinking ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, our survey is currently out in the field and it closes on March 10th. So in about a month from now, we hope to be releasing the new data. So that means that this portal that I just showed you will be updated with all of the information that newly nominated schools and schools, they all have the opportunity to refresh their data as well. So the numbers will change slightly. It'll be interesting to see if over time there's been changes in those core practices. All of the schools that are nominated, in addition to being featured on the website, they get included in Transcend's design community, which is kind of a interactive professional development space. You might be familiar, some of you might already be in it, because it's a really great kind of learning community online that connects school leaders and education innovators together. And then, yeah, we'll be doing a lot of analysis with the data as well to do like some commentary, some school features. I don't think our annual report will look exactly the same as last year. We're hoping to do some more kind of essay style work, but we'll share out the information to different audiences. Our main audiences for this project are actually funders, policymakers, and researchers. But then we know that the information is also really valuable to school leaders. So we kind of take that analysis and we package it in different ways to share out the examples of the stories. So I did include 2 kind of example use cases. These are just some of the ways that we have heard that people have used the data, like beyond just finding particular schools to either visit or to feature. We've also kind of seen the Canopy project impact State Department planning and trainings before. So particularly with like our working definitions of innovation, it can be really helpful to have like site-based examples of, either broadening or deepening people's understanding of like, what does it mean to be student-centered? Kind of just, you guys were suggesting too, that you're looking for examples to do with your portrait of a graduate. It's much like that, or it's really useful to say like, here's like a school here's a bunch of different schools that are doing innovation and like, hey, it's not all about technology. So then if you then see either policy incentives or calls for nominations that are using, like you want to write that language to incentivize innovation that is equity driven. So we like to kind of compare examples and like to just kind of share our broad view and lots of creative views of what schools are doing that is so innovative and what is working. So these are some examples of kind of use cases where folks, much like you guys, have been able to influence how the shape of education in their region or in their state or across the country by sharing more and deeper examples of innovative learning environments.
Thanks for that. I know that you're sharing screen, so it's hard to see the questions in the chat, but there's a question in the chat from Carmen. I don't know if you want to unmute Carmen or
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things that we are looking for are examples of different ways that districts and schools measure their graduate profile. So, yeah, so what are the different ways that that might look? And so I see that lots of the schools have what appears to be some kind of performance assessment system in place, whether it's portfolios or then exhibitions or both. Is there anywhere, so I've gone to the school sites and you can't really find it. So, I mean, is the best thing, I guess, just to contact them individually, maybe, or is that information collected anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for asking. That's a great question. Especially because it's something that I know a lot of people are interested in, including us. So and the short answer is like, no, I don't have a repository of the different performance-based assessments that schools are using, just partly because we do have 80 different practice tags. So we don't have kind of like a database featuring the evidence from each one of them. However, this year compared to last year, we actually did adjust the questions slightly to go a little bit more in depth into assessments and also like outcomes, but not necessarily what were schools' academic results, but we actually asked people like, what outcomes matter to your site? Mm-hmm. And like, how are you measuring them, including asking if they use a portrait of a graduate. And if they do use a portrait of a graduate, is it self-developed or a state portrait of a graduate? Or like, where did they get, the criteria that they're using? So we're kind of beginning to investigate, as we know there's so much there's like both like grassroots and grass tops like movement around this area. So I don't have the examples that you're asking for, but we are also like deepening our inquiry into this line because I know it's really important.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I know you guys have a lot of important work to do, but thank you very much for inviting me to this call. It's really nice to meet you, and please don't be shy. If you want to reach out, my email is on the slide, and really anything. If you're just like, what was that website again? Or if you are like, we want to do a research partnership, like just please keep in touch. And thanks for, kind of being on this committee.
Sarah, thanks so much. And would you mind sharing the deck with us so we can keep it in our resources, and so we have your contact information? And I apologize, it was wrong on the agenda. That was the old version of the agenda.
Oh yeah, no worries at all. And yes, I'm happy to share the deck.
Thanks so much for that. Sarah Snipes, I think I jumped in on you. Sorry, saw you on mute.
Oh, you are good. I was just watching the time here and being respectful of our afternoons, going to kind of lead into the learning opportunity reflection and intentions discussion. I think Sarah's kind of sharing of the canopy leads us to reflect on what's possible, what are the implications of a resource like this for this committee, and the charge that we have and the purpose that we have in our time together. So I kind of want to leave that open, but also pointing us to make the most of our time. We have a shared folder that I've just dropped in the chat for learning reflections. And so let's say Carmen goes home this week, really wants to dig into the question that she posed here on the chat today and contact the school and starts a conversation with them around their performance assessment structures. We have a folder where folks can start to reflect on their learning, specifically though around 3 questions that the council as a whole is kind of looking for us to contribute responses to what we're learning from the field when that full council comes together. So as you know, we're kind of in this very unique interplay between a committee that's specifically looking deeply at the assessment piece, and then another that's looking at policy. And so our work in really finding vibrant learning and lifting up those examples, spreading practices, really informs their work as well. So these 3 questions that you would find in your learning reflection document are a great way for you to go on these site visits, as we mentioned earlier, dig into the canopy and other resources that we have in our playlist that we curated, and reflect on the things that you're learning along the way. So if you watch a TED Talk, or if you do talk to a school leader from a canopy school, talk to them, pose these 3 questions. What, if anything, is needed to create vibrant learning experiences, and from who? Are there state systems that they're running into, or barriers? And you can kind of capture that learning there. Of course, we have that section again, just as a reminder of other notes. So as we mentioned earlier, maybe there are look-fors that are coming up for you as you participate in some of these learning opportunities in between meetings. And so please make sure that you capture that in this tool if you'd like, or use another system that works better for you as well. We just wanted to provide this and remind you that this exists for you, and that we can kind of capture and share our learning together in this way. So feel free to use that. I do want to give us just about 2 minutes here to open up and get your thoughts on what was just shared with us from the Canopy and what implications it might have for this group. Where's your head at? What are you thinking about as we heard about the Canopy?
Hey, I'm driving, so sorry, but I wanted to say thank you to her for bringing that in. I'm really excited to dig into it when I get back home and have a chance to set in down there. But thank you for that. Just wanted to say that real quick.
Glad that was helpful, Susan.
Kind of kick things off a little bit. I know when we were meeting the first time in person, me and I think Rachel and Penny were all talking about like a clearinghouse of schools in Kentucky that we're doing vibrant learning, and that was kind of one of our goals. So I think this is a really good, model. It's country or continental wide, but it's really cool, and thank you for sharing with us.
Justin, this is Julie Monarch. I was thinking the same thing while she was sharing all of that was, this was something that was they had already kind of created the platform. And so I appreciate the idea of being able to look out there, and my thoughts exactly. Thanks.
Something I've really been thinking about specific to our committee here lately at the Canopy, as we did some outreach to ask Sarah's team to come on, is especially around those core practices and the 80 tags that they provide. I think I was instantly reminded of the early conversations this group had, and Justin, you brought this up with your teacher as well. Like, how will we know when we're looking at a vibrant learning experience? And what is the sense making? What tags, for example, are we looking for? I think, Alfonso, that connects back to a little bit of what you were saying earlier. Like, what are the look-fors that we have in Kentucky around vibrant learning? And so it was interesting just to have 80 examples to kind of look at nationally, and the trends that exist across the board of who places an emphasis where and on what.
I mentioned this earlier, but I really would love to see more Kentucky schools represented on the project. We know there's vibrant learning happening out there. Kentucky has a great story to tell, and really has for some time, but I think this statewide effort can and our work can serve to hold up even more, light on the examples that we think are share worthy. It's so powerful to go see it, and sometimes it's hard to travel far. And it's just really encouraging when you know that there are people in your same general area doing amazing work with similar, resources and all of those things, and challenges and gifts and all of those things. So I'd love to see a more of a spotlight on Kentucky schools. So that might be something for us to think about.
Karen, being mindful of our time together and looking at our agenda, it looks like, did Carrie join us? We did have one agenda item addition about the library initiative. Alfonso, I'm not sure if Sarah's still with us. Nominations have closed for this. They're not currently open. Their report, I believe she said, will be out at that time. So when they, the KDE is an approved nominator. So I can do some outreach, or if you'd like to contact Sarah on your own, I will make sure that we find out kind of that process of becoming a nominator. There you go, Sarah. Thank you for still being with us. We'll definitely support in any way that we can to make sure we can put the spotlight on Kentucky. All right, I don't think that Carrie was able to join us, and so Justin, we looks like we are at 2 minutes till. I'll kick it over to you for meeting adjournment.
All right, so we had a very action-packed day, and I just want to reiterate that we will not be meeting virtually again. Our next meeting together will be at the April convening, all together with the entire council in person in Shelbyville. And that is April 25th and 26th of this year. So that is our next meeting. And if we don't have any more comments or questions for Sarah or about any of the other agenda items, I think we can move to adjourn. Do we need to do a motion?
Justin, I do see one question in the chat, if Sarah's still with us, about who can nominate. Is it limited to the State Department?
So it's not limited to State Department, but we do have nominating organizations as opposed to accepting nominations from individuals. So on our website, there's I'll find the link and I can send it to you, Alfonso, and include it in the slides for everybody to register your interest as a nominator. So there's certain criteria, but it's not limited only to State departments.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the question, Alfonso. Anybody else? Do we have any more questions for Sarah or about any of the other agenda items that anybody wants to get in? All right. So do we need to do a motion to adjourn? Is that?
Yeah, I think we should.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Susan Centro makes the motion to adjourn.
And do we have a second?
I second the motion. Sounds like everybody wants to stay, but I second the motion.
All right. Well, with that being said, we will adjourn this meeting of the Vibrant Learning Experiences. And I am looking forward to seeing all of you on site visits and in April.